Hi guys, this is Simon with Trade and Perform Coaching with a trade review for the 7th of May. And man, this year's moving along quickly. So this is a pretty interesting day. I want to dive right into it, and I want to cover two areas. First of all, just the basics. What did the market do versus what the plan was before the open? But more importantly, I'm going to try to use it as a coaching moment because I went a little off track today in my own trading. And I want to show A, how that could happen, and B, how I handled it, and how you can handle it in your own trading as well. So the first thing we knew going into today was that we were having the Fed chairwoman, Yellen, Janet Yellen, was giving testimony at 9 a.m. Her speech was released prior to her testimony. And the first thing that I noticed very quickly was not necessarily the weakness in ES, but if you look over here, this is my NQ chart. I'll drag over real quick. And this is an open drive lower, guys, essentially, in NQ. But not only that, but the drive lower occurred through the entire first half hour, okay, prior to data being released. I pointed this out on StockTwits and Twitter that the weakness was a change in character from her prior testimony, sessions leading into her prior testimony. It was a point of concern. But I also always say, take a look at NQ. It's been the leader, and even if it's been weaker, you at least want to see it. They'll get to a point where it's not even a leader, but at least it'll go step in step with ES. And it hasn't started that process yet. And what the process has been on most days has been, there's been a rotation into ES, as everyone knows at this point, and it's been going on for weeks, right? And out of NQ. But what's happened is once that rotation is done, it has dragged ES down with it. And it did that again today, only in the reversal process, ES was much stronger than NQ. So this was the first thing that I was noticing today. And we were below Globex low and below yesterday's low pretty much before or as Yellen was releasing her comments this morning. And all I can say is anytime I see that, I don't care what's going on, I'm concerned when I see a change in character. And I thought that we could actually have a sustained move to the downside out of this. Obviously, that did not work out. The second thing that I pointed out in this morning's meeting is that I was pretty much skipping somewhere between the first 30 and 45 minutes, somewhere in that range, right? Basically, I wanted Yellen to start speaking prior to trading. And if you were watching the news, and I checked multiple times, but basically I said I'm not doing anything in front of her, at least beginning that process, right? Secondly, again, and I can't say this strongly enough, we did not rally into her comments. That's unusual and caused me at least to step aside. And in my particular case, it helped me avoid this area right here. Okay, so you got to realize this is Tuesday's low and Globex low from Tuesday's low and obviously the overnight low. If we look at NQ, right, the same period of time, let's see if we can get this up here real quick. Same period of time. This is already, prior to 9 a.m., we're already below, and we're showing no inclination of getting back above. If you look at, just for joy's sake, we're still above when the news comes out, but then we finally trade below. It trades right to the bottom. And I just didn't see a lot of reason or argument. I did say if we tested after she came out with her speech and after she started making her comments, I would look here, but I didn't see anything here that would be of interest. And I also said that I would look for a long here at 1855 to 1853. I did not get the long. I don't remember if I was further back, but I was focusing tremendously on NQ, and that's where I actually went south on the day. So let's get this straight so everyone is clear. She'd already started making her speech. This is about when she started speaking, and that's what I was targeting. Is I wanted to see her begin to give her testimony, and then I figured things would settle down. And sure enough, they did, and we got the beginning of a reversal. Also, I pointed out that once we got back above Globex lows, right? Once we got it back above this, the potential was for a trap, and that we could trade to the other end of the range, which would be Globex highs. That's exactly what happened, and you're welcome to go see the market preview I have posted right below here. I essentially called this trade out. Never mind that I didn't get it, okay? But I did call it out. and that's the nuance that I want to point out. So first of all, you noticed my primary focus was on NQ and not on ES. Why is that? NQ's been weaker to the downside, and it's been the easier short. ES has been the easier long to the upside. So I do wear two hats, and when I see that ES is the harder short, I'm not going to focus my energy trying to short a trade when I know it's going to be easier to the long side. I'm going to pay attention to NQ. So that part I had right, and I had multiple trades where I actually made very good money to the short side. Okay, where I had it wrong, let's go into that and discuss that for a moment. Where I had it wrong was that, first of all, I go through a checklist each morning, and part of that checklist is there anything that's on my agenda or happening in my life that might cause to be a distraction, or, for lack of a better word, something I can't feel going on but might affect my thinking process. Okay, and through the course of the day, I had several of my coaching clients actually contact me. One actually called me, and he said, "Hey," the call was like basically, "Hey man, are you doing all right?" And I was like, "Yeah, why?" And he kind of said, "Well, you're trading kind of in a way you don't normally trade. You're taking big swings. You're letting the trades come all the way back against you. Even on your trailers, that's pretty uncommon for you to let the trade come all the way back against you. And you just seem like you're a little bit on tilt, like you maybe got too much going on at one time." And so by the time I got that call, and then I ran one more trade. That was a trade where I got run over for 10 points on half a position, and it basically took me back to scratch for the day. And so I took a step back, and I went back and looked at what was going on, and then I realized that Mother's Day is coming up this weekend. I realized it's no big national secret, but what I didn't put together in my mind was that was going to be an upsetting event for me. Unfortunately, I lost my mom, obviously who I love very much. Lost her late last year, just in November. It wasn't that long ago. And, until I put those 2 points together, my back was tight, my neck was tight. I was trading a lot. And so what I'm trying to convey here is you should know, it's easier to recognize when someone else is on tilt than when you're on tilt, number one. Number two, so my signatures for when I'm on tilt are I'm trying to hit huge home runs, number one. I tend to not want to scale, and I'll let big trades come in my favor and then come all the way back against me. Okay? That is my signature. Now, normally my signature is I get into a trade, I start scaling relatively quickly to get risk off, right? And the further it goes, the fewer contracts I have, and I'm not trying to hit a home run, I just kind of fumble my way into them, right? But I thought that NQ had a good chance of going to 34.80. It clearly was weak all day, and you could have made an argument that could have happened. That wasn't the point. The point was how I was handling the trades was that as if this was the one time that it was going to go from point A to point Z with no stops in between, and that just almost never happens. And furthermore, it's simply a signature of me being on tilt. Okay, so I did a couple of things. First of all, as soon as I realized that, I locked up my trading domes because I realized I was not trading well, and I was lucky, truly lucky, to be break even for the day. I really, under any other circumstance, would have been down. Okay, but my trade entries were pretty good, and I managed to sidestep this entire nightmare to the downside. Right, this can get pretty bad for traders who are undisciplined. You buy thinking it's going to reverse, it stops you. You buy again, it stops you. You buy again, it stops you. Okay, that's all bad. That's all bad karma right there. Right. And then what do traders do? What's the flip side of that, right? And this very reason I did not short ES today, right, is because look at the strength of the move to the upside was equal to or stronger than, and then the number of rotations up were significantly stronger all day. I could have gotten locked in a mode of where I insisted ES was going to roll to the downside, but I actually did my homework and figured out that NQ was the easier short. It was my only saving grace today, okay? The next part where I made a mistake is, in my checklist, it says, are there any major news events, right, that might cause the market to be harder than normal? And on my list of news events that basically tell me not to trade that day is non-farm payrolls, is Federal Reserve Day, and when the Fed chairperson is addressing Congress or making public speeches. And what did I do? We got into the day, and I got the first part of it right? First 45 minutes, guys, sidestep it, right? 9:30, look for reversals. But I didn't put the pieces together. I didn't capture the reversal, and not only that, but I adopted a scenario where I thought the market was going to get significantly lower. And if you look at my Twitter stream, I even came out and said, the flip side of this argument is, and I forget where I did it. I'm going to take a quick look, and so I can put it out there. Hold on a second here. Okay, I'm bringing this over right here to highlight this so everyone can see it. So first of all, I put that I was short 35.1650. Boy, do I rue this trade. This is right after I got off the phone with one of my clients who was actually trying to save my bacon. Okay. Number two, I shorted and I put on half the normal size. Okay, and I said I may close it sooner. Minus 10 is a hard stop, and that was BS. I just let the whole thing run all the way against it. Number one, which is kind of disgusting at this point. And then the last piece is I made the argument for what the long is right here. Look, I said the flip side of the argument is that the panic is over in NQ, and DS looks good for a move to the upside, strong from the first hour low. Okay, so I basically said, hey, look, I think we can go up in ES. And okay, so when you have a trade plan, once you go into a trade, you make a shift. And that shift is that you are no longer looking at the market information from a balance standpoint, but you're only looking at the market from a point of confirm my position for me. I don't want any other information. Just tell me what I want to hear. And anything that goes against that, shut it down. Okay? And that's exactly the mode that I was in. Of course, and then the other thing that I had working in my favor was I've pressed this trade, the NQ to the short side, multiple times in the past month, and it has proven to be very profitable for me. So net, it wasn't the worst decision I possibly could have made, and probably had I been a little bit more flexible mentally, I'd have been okay. But the fact of the matter is that I wasn't flexible mentally, that there was something bothering me. I'd gone through my checklist and missed two key points. First of all, Mother's Day is coming up, which is probably going to be tough, whether I want it to be or not. And the next part is Federal Reserve days. I have a losing track record on Federal Reserve days, and I'll tell you the reason why. It does not have to do anything to do with my trade plan. It has to do with my ability to execute my trade plan on those days. Federal Reserve days, we know that we can get these wild moves, okay, and I make most of my money on the vanilla moves, number one. Number two, leadership is changing from NQ to ES. I became convinced that NQ was going to continue to roll to the downside. Not a terrible idea, but I was pressing at the wrong points. And even then, at one point on one of my NQ trades, I was up 15 points. That's $300 a contract. And I let it come all the way back and tag me at break even. And then I did it a second time when I had 10 points on the trade. I let it come back even. So if you just do the numbers on that, that's a total of $500 per contract that I let them come back that I actually had. All I had to do is pull the money, as I preach all the time, pull the money off the table. Okay? So there's two elements to a trade plan. First of all, the trade plan was relatively solid, right? We sidestepped all of this. Okay? I had the right general area here, and as a matter of fact, if you look for tick divergence, we got tick divergence on 1 minute right here that clued you in and avoided you from getting run over right here. This made such perfect sense. This was the half back right here. Guys, half back gets run over all the time. If you're using that as a trade entry, just know they're going to try and drive those guys back and stop them. That's just how the deal works on intraday half back. Every algo out there knows that people are shorting half back. They're going to try and capture those people with 1 point and 1.5 point stops. Okay, so be aware. Next, right, if you look, first time we came from the zone, there was tick divergence right here. Nice clean move to the downside worth 5 points, right? And you'll see the zones worked as they normally do once the noise passed, right? They provided a point of resistance or support. The market paused there, and then up here is the last example, right? Where we had all these points where we paused all the way through right to the end of the day. The trap worked perfectly on both sides. There's another trap up here. I don't know if y'all can see that or not. Okay, so had you simply said, I'm going to wait till after the first hour is done and then see what picks up, right? Well, from here, even if you didn't get this low, trap trade set up. Trap trade set up. And then, of course, we had the rotation back for a backside test. That's a more aggressive trade. But it's still set up up to the upside. There was 2 trades here could have had that were worth 10 to 5 points apiece on ES, right? Without fighting it all day long. Even if you did nothing else and completely sidestepped this on Fed day and you just didn't get crushed in here, that would have been a good move as well, right? And I had several clients who took their longs right out of the lows here, okay? The zone location, the placement was fantastic. I did mention at 1857.50 there was a possibility that we would get responsive buyers, but that I had to see 1 minute tick divergence, which I'm pretty sure we didn't have in here. Anyone's welcome to correct me if I'm wrong. But we did not have tick divergence in here for this matter. It just came in and came out very quickly, exactly as it's supposed to. So my issue was one, not of were the charts correct or incorrect, but I was just simply mentally not where I needed to be to have effective trading. To that point, I probably won't be there tomorrow, and I probably won't be there Friday either. And the best thing for me is going to be to sidestep these next 2 days, right? Because I clearly have a mental block coming into this Mother's Day thing, whether I want to acknowledge it or not, or whether I want to feel it or not, right? That's the hard thing about trading, is it comes out, it's going to find where your little buttons are, right? And it's going to grab a hold of it and it's going to turn it as hard as it possibly can, right? And you're going to look at your chart and you're going to go, how the hell did I do that when I can look at my trade plan and see that my trade plan was clearly on, okay? And the answer to that is your mental game is more important than your trade plan, your ability to execute cleanly, right? Respect your stops. So I've listed everything I did wrong. I want to list a few things that I did right because there's a balance sheet here, okay? So the things that I did right, first of all, sidestepping was a fantastic call. Fantastic call to sidestep all of this in the first 45 minutes. Brilliant. I didn't get run over. Well done, right? My NQ trades, I entered very well, and I entered those for the most part according to my trade plan, right? With regards to, I have a specific entry set up for NQ, okay? I think I was profitable by at least 4 points on every NQ trade I had. My entries took very little heat for the most part, except for the last trade that I took there. Okay, so those were all in the plus column. I scaled well on all but one particular trade, and that was the one where I had 4 points. I let it come back against me, and I allowed myself to be distracted. Wasn't anyone else's fault but my own. Okay, but I should have gone in there and taken that 4 points, scaled, and moved my stop at least to net break even. Okay, and then the last piece that I did well is once I realized I was on tilt and I saw that last trade that I took, and I was watching it, just trying to figure out what I was thinking there when I took that trade. There was a setup, but you know, afternoon, half size, and I let it come all the way back against me. But I didn't take another trade after that. Okay, and I acknowledged the problem. I walked out. So those are all good things on the positive side of my ledger. And the reason why I bring that up is because every trader, okay, we all do something well through the course of the day. Even if you had the worst day of your life, okay, you had to do something right in that course of that day. And what we're trying to do is more of what we do right and less of what we do wrong. So, well, I'm not going to trade tomorrow, but if I were trading tomorrow, right, and when I come back Monday to trade, I will try to go back and I will execute my scales more accurately. I won't allow a trade to come all the way back against me again, correct? And then the other part that I want to reinforce is that I had mentioned that everything below this area was poorly auctioned, right, and could slip right through. I did a great job of highlighting that. I'll continue to highlight those poorly auctioned areas as areas to be cautious about. And then the other piece that I did well was I recognized the strength in the S and didn't attempt to stand in the front of it as it was moving up. Your best shot to the short side was NQ, right? And then the last piece that I want to stay in, and this is from Dr. Andrew Menaker, who I think does fantastic work along with Brett Steenbarger and a couple other trading psychologists out there, right? And that is, first of all, my focus was on the process for the most part. There was some hidden emotional stuff behind, but I did a great job of going, hey, I'm just staying out of here. I was pissed that I missed this move to the downside, by the way, in NQ, but I thought I balanced that pretty well. I acknowledged, right, he has a rule that says, rule your emotions, recognize, understand, label, and express. And I was agitated that the market rolled over prior to the news. In my mind, I had it set that the market would prop up prior to whatever she was going to say. She'd release her comments, we'd get one final pop, and then we'd roll to the downside, and I felt somewhat robbed. Okay, so that's okay. Acknowledge that you feel robbed, right? But then don't go into the market owes me scenario, okay? So I'm grateful that I did at least half my job correctly. It saved my bacon today. I'm extremely grateful to my coaching clients, several that had contacted me and said, hey, what's up? You're not operating on a normal wavelength that you're usually on. You seem a little bit off. I truly, truly appreciate that, guys. It is hard. It's easy to tell someone else how to do it right, but this is a hard game to consistently execute at a high level properly, and it's why I have my own trading coach as well. It takes a lot of reinforcement, a lot of work, and a lot of focus on what the end goal is, meaning the end goal meaning at the end of the day, the end of the week, the end of the month, and the end of the year. What do I want to have accomplished? And those are all process-oriented goals, which result in me hopefully making a great amount of points, which translates into me making a great amount of money, right? And then the last piece that I'm grateful for is that I finally got the message after hearing from multiple people that I was just off, and instead of turning around, my old behavior would have said, I'm just going to continue to fight this thing all the way up, all afternoon, and I would have gotten bone crushed through all of this. I have not spoken to a trader who doesn't get into that mode, right? Who insists the market has to roll over. And I simply went into a mode where I said, I'm wrong, everyone else is right, right? That sucks to say, especially when you put yourself out there as a good trader. But what makes me a good trader is that I survive days like today with little to no damage, okay? Which means I can reset. I'm going to make a wise decision by not trading over the next 2 days, although I will have the trade plan out, right? And then I'll come back Monday, my head cleared, hopefully, and making great decisions. And I know that there's always another trade. I don't ever have to feel pressured to take the next trade. So I hope that helped everyone out there. This is not an easy job. Anyone who makes it seem easy, okay, is full of crap, okay? Also be aware, a couple of things to watch for tomorrow. NQ, okay? ES closing near the high. It doesn't look like there's a lot keeping us from testing that 1890-250. Sure looks like it wants to get tagged at this point. It's hard to imagine what's going to derail ES. Of course, as soon as I say that, watch it be down 20 tomorrow. But whatever, that's fine. Again, if we get a gap in the morning, I will be cognizant of the possibility of having a gap and go, especially if we gap into that 1882.50 area. I think that 1886.50, the most recent high, can get ripped through with extreme ease. And if I were trading and when I'm coaching tomorrow morning, I will be cautious in that area due to the strength in ES. I'm not sure if they'll throw us a curveball or not, but if it gaps, I'll definitely be looking for an open drive higher, and I will not want to be standing in front of that. We certainly could close the end of the week at new highs. Also, what I want to be cognizant of, and I want to see change, right? It doesn't have to be a leader, right? But if you look, NQ closed below this 35.46 3/4. I would like to see NQ trading above this level and holding above this level. If we get back below here, right, there's still some hope. I mean, obviously it can get work its way down, but we want to see NQ, even though it's been damaged, right, get a responsive buy, a move back up. It doesn't mean that it'll take the leadership role again, but it's been pounded and kicked to the downside, and you're going to have to see it at least stop going down, I think, to get a sustained move up in ES, right, or at least a clean trending move up, right? So I'll be looking, my trade plan for tomorrow is I'll be looking to buy rotations lower for a move higher. I won't be chasing higher. I'll be cautious on the shorts, and if I see a short, or if I take a short, or if I were to take a short since I won't be trading, it will probably be, initially at least, an NQ. But I think at this point, seeing the strength in ES, that I'm going to say, and again, this is very early, but I'm going to say that I think I'd rather look for long setups instead of, I'd rather look for long setups instead of short setups going into tomorrow. It just seems to me like if the bears were going to be able to do it, today was the day. and they utterly and completely failed to take advantage of the weakness. And the rotation into ES is very strong. And so let's see how it sets up. Let's see if we get the gap and the open drive higher tomorrow, and we'll kind of have a tip as to what we want to do. And in that particular case, the best entry long, because we do have a potential for a trend situation, if we can gap here, there's a potential that we could trend straight up into the high and even potentially break it. Okay, so I'm not a super bull, right? But this pattern's repeated every single day where we've gotten responsive buyers to the upside, and I simply don't want to fight those guys. That's all there is to it. They've been consistent in ES. So I hope that helped. My name is Simon. I'm with Trade and Perform Coaching. I share these stories, particularly when I struggle personally, to help other traders get better. I'm certainly not looking for pity. No one's going to feel sorry for me. Even if I have a big down day, no one's going to feel sorry for me, right? The point of why I do this is to be able to give back a little bit and to help guys become better traders to the point where you don't need me, right? And if we talk as colleagues, not as someone who's teaching you how to do something, but instead that you've mastered or attained a certain level of expertise that you can develop these charts on your own, develop your trade location, your entries and your exits on your own, right? And also that you'll become capable of giving back to someone else, right, who needs help along the way. Even if it's not today or tomorrow or even a year from now, and 4 or 5 years from now, hopefully you'll pass on this knowledge. Someone passed it on to me. I didn't invent any of this. And it's really cool to see people go from struggling, break-even, losing traders to first break-even and then consistently profitable. Man, that changes their outlook on trading. It reinforces my belief that anyone can trade. So, anyways, I'm tired, guys. I'm going to go to bed. We'll talk to you tomorrow. I'll upload this and post it on the blog, and bright and early tomorrow morning. See y'all then.